.com. After months of claiming he is innocent, first son Hunter Biden has agreed to plead guilty to tax evasion and gun charges. But unlike pretty much every other criminal, he won't serve any jail time and could see some convictions erased if he's a good boy. And that is really making people angry. The Border Patrol said crossings topped 200,000 again in May. But worse was the surge of terrorists trying to get in, many over the Canadian border. Fox News might have thought getting rid of Tucker Carlson was a good cleansing move, but it's killing the network's ratings. And the CDC reports that depression is on the rise in America. They said nearly 1 in 5 of us are constantly bummed out. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Folks, welcome to Stinchfield. Today was the day Democrats were dreading in Washington. Yes, John Durham, the special prosecutor that issued his Durham report that found literally no evidence of Trump collusion with Russia. We all knew there was no evidence of it, yet we were forced to spend millions of dollars on an investigation that uncovered what we already knew: FBI corruption, FBI bias, and a weaponization of the DOJ beyond belief in America. So John Durham goes before Congress today. And I think maybe the most important soundbite from John Durham was that just maybe there are good, law-abiding FBI agents inside that agency that has been weaponized by the left. Because he said that many FBI agents apologized for their behavior and were upset about how this investigation unfolded. Listen.
I have had any number of FBI agents who I've worked with over the years. Some of them are retired, some are still in place, who have come to me and apologized for the manner in which that investigation was undertaken. I take that seriously. These are good, hardworking, the majority of people in the FBI, decent human beings who swear under their oaths to abide by the law and the like. And I think that exemplifies of the concern here.
So I'm going to give those FBI agents the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give the agency the benefit of the doubt because everything I've seen from leadership within the FBI has been absolutely disgusting when it comes to liberty and disgusting when it comes to tyranny and going after conservatives, including President Trump. So are there good FBI agents inside the FBI? Maybe there are. If that's true, that some came through and apologized, great. We know we've talked to whistleblowers on this program. Those people are heroes. If there really are good, honest agents inside the FBI, I would urge all of them tonight, come forward, tell your story. Contact Jim Jordan and his weaponization of government committee and tell your story, FBI agent, because if you don't, you are culpable. Now, let's get back to the story at hand. John Durham said he found no evidence of Russian collusion, and maybe even more stunning than that, there was no evidence of Russian collusion that should have even led to the investigation in the first place. There was, quote, no verified intelligence.
Was there adequate predication for the FBI to open Crossfire Hurricane as a full investigation?
On July 31st, in my view, based on our investigation, there was not a legitimate basis to open as a full investigation. An assessment is something that had to be looked at, gather information, such as interviewing the people who provided the Papadopoulos information, checking their own databases, the databases of other intelligence agencies, and the standard kinds of things that you would do in an investigation like this.
And that wasn't done. They didn't consult other agencies. They didn't even consult their own files. See, now what I believe is they knew exactly what they're doing. They didn't care that there wasn't any evidence from all of this. It was all about getting Trump. If you look at that last soundbite we played, up in the back there was a screenshot from Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, the two FBI lovebirds, saying, we can't let him become president. We can't let him, the text message said, we can't let him become president. Will it happen? No, we will not let it happen. That's the political bias we saw inside the FBI. So what do Democrats do? As everything's unraveling on national television today, with John Durham basically calling out the weaponization and just how devious they are, they went to attack John Durham.
Your reputation will be damaged, as everybody's reputation who gets involved with Donald Trump is damaged. He's damaged goods. There's no good dealing with him because you will end up on the bottom of a pyre. I yield back the balance of my time.
Sure.
Can we presume the gentleman's undecided on how he feels about the former president?
Gentlemen, the witness can respond.
Yeah, my concern about my reputation is with the people who I respect and my family and my Lord. And I'm perfectly comfortable with my reputation with them, sir.
All right, look, I'm grateful that John Durham came up with this report. It took way too long. There was really no payback for the crimes committed against the American people, President Trump and those around him. None. He could have subpoenaed Page, Strzok, James Comey, McCabe. They all refused to talk to him. These are the leaders of the FBI, the agents in charge that literally lied to get through this investigation, and they knew exactly what they're doing. Why didn't he subpoena them? That I was angry about. But in the end, I'm grateful he uncovered a lot of things that he did, like the idea that there was intelligence that stated the Clinton campaign was working on a story to tie President Trump to Russia and claim there was some kind of Russian collusion. This came from Australia. John Durham talked about this.
Based on declassified documents that in the public record, there was intelligence information that was received at virtually the same time that the information came from the Australians. I mean, within a day or two. That intelligence included information that there was a purported plan designed by one of Mrs. Clinton's foreign policy advisors to create a scandal tying Donald Trump to the Russians. That's the essence of the intelligence.
And they ignored it. They didn't pass it on. In fact, there was one agent who was beside himself when he learned that this intelligence existed, and he was never given that intelligence when he was tasked to go on and investigate President Trump and the Trump campaign. That FBI agent was sick to his stomach over it. So what did James Comey know? Remember, he was the leader of the FBI. Well, John Durham talked about that.
Did our government receive intelligence that suggested Secretary Clinton had approved a plan to tie President Trump to Russia?
Yes.
Did he share it with the agents on the case, working the Crossfire Hurricane case?
No. We interviewed the first supervisor of the Crossfire investigation, the operational person. We showed him the intelligence information. He indicated he had never seen it before. He immediately became emotional, got up and left the room with his lawyer. The information was kept from him.
Do you see what I'm talking about? This is the thing third world countries do. It's been going on for years now in America. So then the question becomes, how high did all of this go? As they're literally trying to steal the White House, as the Democrats are literally trying to run a coup on America to make sure that President Trump is not elected through lies and hoaxes and all of this nonsense. Did Barack Obama know he was president at the time? What did he know? Did Joe Biden know he was vice president at the time? Here's John Durham.
On August 3rd of 2016, then Director Brennan had briefed the president, vice president, director of national intelligence, the FBI, the attorney general, and others.
When you say the FBI, you mean Mr. Comey?
He had, on August 3rd, it was conducted at the White House. It was Director Comey himself.
So Mr. Comey knew about this, President Obama knew about this. Vice President Biden knew about this.
They need to pay for crimes. If you are the President of the United States and Vice President of the United States and you know that they are running a sham of an investigation on a political opponent, it's not what America is about. That should be illegal. You have a duty as the commander-in-chief to call that out and say enough is enough, knock off the shenanigans. If we're going to win the White House, let's win it fair and square. But that's not how the Democrats work. They are willing to lie, cheat, and steal for it, and that's what was on display today in Washington. So the question becomes, is the system broken? I mean, a reasonable person would say Washington is broken. The deep state is real. The swamp is real. You know, I had a viewer email me, said, stop calling it the swamp. It's not a swamp. Swamp is filled with life, birth, animals, all kinds of things. It's a sewer is what it is. It's a sewer filled with rats. Rats and snakes. That's what Washington is. It's not a swamp. It's a sewer. And so the question becomes, is the system broken? Or is it operating as designed by these Democrats who roam the sewers? I would argue it's operating exactly as it's intended to operate. The deep state, the rats in Washington, they're running this just as they want to run it. So the question then becomes, months later, has anything changed? Jim Jordan reiterated this knowledge about the Trump investigation into the boxes hoax at Mar-a-Lago.
7 years, nothing has changed. Don't believe me? We interviewed Stephen D'Antuono, former head of the Washington field office when the Trump classified document case began. Mr. D'Antuono told the committee, interviewed him just 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago today. Mr. D'Antuono told the committee that when he asked the Department of Justice, why is there no U.S. attorney assigned to the Trump classified document case? Headquarters said, because we're running it. He suggested the Miami field office should do the raid. Instead of sending the folks from Washington field office down to Miami, have the folks in the Miami field office do it. Headquarters said no. Nothing has changed, and frankly, they're never going to stop.
Because it's operating just as they want it to operate. When you control the media, when you control the justice system, when you control the courts, why would you change the system? You have unlimited power now at this point. Of course, nothing has changed, and it won't change until we get President Trump back in the White House. Well, joining me now, political consultant extraordinaire, former advisor to President Trump, and the host of the Stone Zone on Frank's Speech, our friend Roger Stone is back. Roger, welcome to the program.
Grant, it's great to be here. You know, as someone who is half Sicilian, I'm familiar with an old Italian saying, a fish rots from its head. Barack Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, FBI Director James Comey, CIA Director John Brennan, and others, they all knew that there was no probable cause, there was no evidence of Russian collusion, yet they still used it as a predicate to open the counterintelligence investigation Crossfire Hurricane. They still used it to rationalize the appointment of Robert Mueller. They still used it to justify illegal FISA warrants against Donald Trump and his campaign. They lied about it repeatedly. And with all due respect to Mr. Durham, what did he know a few weeks ago when he released his report that he didn't know before last November's election? They charged Donald Trump in a totally fugazi indictment regarding presidential documents only 2 weeks ago. They want to bring that to trial just weeks from now in August. What took Mr. Durham 5 years to get to the bottom line? Could it have anything to do with the statute of limitations running out so that Mr. Durham could not actually prosecute Hillary Clinton, prosecute Barack Obama, prosecute Joe Biden, prosecute James Comey, prosecute John Brennan, prosecute Jake Sullivan, and the rest of the criminals involved in this entire shenanigan? I hate to say it, but I agree with Matt Gaetz. John Durham's real objective was to stall, and he did that, sadly, extraordinarily effectively.
You know, if that's the case, Roger Stone, that we had the chief investigator trying to uncover all the fraudulent activity and I believe criminal activity waged against President Trump and his allies like yourself, then he's just as much part of the deep state if he let these people skate on this by simply running out the clock. To me, I don't know how you can say maybe that's not the case because he didn't even subpoena Strzok, the Lovebirds Page, Comey, McCabe. He could have demanded that they testify in front of him or be interviewed by him, and he didn't do that.
Well, it's even worse than that, Grant, because one of the cornerstones of the Russian collusion hoax is the false claim that the Democratic National Committee was the target of an online hack by Russian intelligence, and that the fruits of that hack somehow made its way to the Trump campaign. It's a lie. It's a damnable lie. Robert Mueller has no proof of that. Either does John Brennan. In my case, they were able to judge shop by falsely claiming that misstatements I made to the House Intelligence Committee, which covered up no illegal action, were related to a case in which has never gone to discovery. The FBI admitted in my trial that they never inspected the computer servers of the DNC, but we now know that the head of CrowdStrike, the company that did inspect the servers, testified under oath to the House Intelligence Committee that his report included no proof whatsoever that the Russians had hacked the DNC. So Mr. Durham, while he may have debunked the Steele dossier, he never touched the question of the non-existent hack of the Democratic National Committee. I'm really glad to hear that these FBI agents apologize, but let me be clear. I can't eat their apologies. I can't use it to fill my gas tank. I can't use it to pay for my wife's uninsured medical expenses as she fights cancer. I can't use it to pay my rent. These people tried to destroy me when I did absolutely nothing wrong other than refusing to testify falsely against President Donald Trump. And they sought to destroy me for that. I have no regrets, but now, with Hunter Biden being charged with tax evasion, people on Fox are saying, well, wait a minute, Roger Stone and his wife walked out on $2 million in taxes they didn't declare. That is a damnable lie. In 2006 and every year since, every single penny I've ever earned has been reported to the IRS. I've never underreported assets or income, but at a certain point after 6 years of payments, Grant, I ran out of money because they bankrupted me, and now they sue me in a civil suit over my inability to pay. Unlike Hunter Biden, I never lied about my taxes. Everything I said was 100% true, but now they've tried to destroy me, saying, oh, well, Stone walked on $2 million. I haven't walked on anything. I still have to pay that. I'll be paying monthly payments for the rest of my life.
Roger, it doesn't go unnoticed by me that they've literally tried to destroy you, and I want everyone out there to know you're not alone either. There are other good men and women that this government, this overreaching government, literally tried to destroy. And if they couldn't financially destroy you, they tried to put you in jail. And so it makes me sick to my stomach. We've gotten to a point with a country that I love so much, and I watch this on display of all of this, and then I hear Jim Jordan basically spell out that nothing has changed. And I'll give you the last word.
It is absolutely true. General Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Carter Page, and most importantly, Donald J. Trump. None of these criminals will pay any price for what they've done. Hillary Clinton belongs in prison, but she continues to skate. But instead, Jack Smith is allowed to basically conjure up non-existent crimes against the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump. This will not stand. Donald Trump will be acquitted in a fair trial in Miami, and that's driving the far left crazy because they want to try him in Washington, D.C., where they control the system. God bless Donald Trump. God bless the United States of America, Grant. And God bless you for having this program and telling the American people the hard truths.
Well, as you know, the feeling is 100% mutual, Roger Stone, and I believe you will get your retribution when Donald Trump is back in the White House. It will come. Might take a little while, but it will come. God bless you too, Roger Stone. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me, Grant. I appreciate it.
All right. Absolutely. Good luck to you. All right, folks. Coming up next, what President Trump needs to do now to get back into the White House in 2024. How should he attack Biden? Or what about DeSantis or even RFK Jr.? I'll get to all of that with Dick Morris next. Well, welcome back, folks. As we continue our coverage of a weaponized government against political foes, mainly President Trump and anyone associated with him, President Trump goes on to a network that I believe has really become a foe of President Trump. That's Fox News. Bret Baier tried to take it to President Trump, I would say, over the last couple of nights. There's been this exclusive interview with President Trump. Let me play some of it for you. This is Bret Baier talking about what I call the boxes hoax.
Other presidents, when they leave, they take the papers. They have thousands and thousands. Obama had it. Nixon had it. Carter had it. The Bushes had it.
These are super sensitive national security documents.
I'm sure you'll see real super sensitive that Biden has, because Biden has far more than anybody's ever kept.
And he turned them over when asked.
No, he didn't. He still hasn't given the 1,850 boxes that's stored at the University of Delaware. In fact, they're fighting them in court, and they're fighting them.
Thank you, Mr. President. See, Mr. President tells the truth about this stuff, when most of the time, you know, if you want to give a guy like Bret Baier the benefit of the doubt, he doesn't know the material. Like, you have to understand that Joe Biden has not given up all the classified documents. and all of these boxes. And it's far worse because Joe Biden was never president of the United States. Trump continued here, cut 5.
Based on the polls, I'm leading Biden by a lot. Based on the polls, I'm leading all of the Republicans by a lot, by 40 points and more. Right now, I have the best polls I've ever had. People see this stuff for what it is. It's a political witch hunt. It's a continuation.
I believe that's exactly what it is. And I would also say this. I've watched President Trump for a long time. I think he may just be in the best political position of his life. Now, how do you say that? He's got too many cases against him to count. He's got too many charges against him to count. Yet I believe he's in the perfect situation because the American public now looks at him as a persecuted victim. Now, he never acts like a victim, never plays the victim, but this guy now has much of America looking at him, including minority communities, saying, you know what? I know people that happened to. I don't like it. I'm voting for Trump. Well, joining me now, pollster, political campaign consultant, and author of the book, The Return, Trump's Big 2024 Comeback. Of course, I'm talking about my old friend, Dick Morris. Dick, it is great to see you.
Hey, Grant. I'm sorry for the background noise, but maybe we can talk over it.
I hope so. So, Dick, what do you make? I said President Trump may just be in the best spot he's ever been politically. What do you think of that assessment?
He is in the best spot he's ever been in politically. His numbers are the best. He currently is 5 points behind, 5 points ahead of Biden in one poll, 7 in another, but clearly ahead of him by a significant amount. Bear in mind that a tie race would be a Republican landslide in the Electoral College. So a 5-point lead is an unbelievable blowout victory at this point. And basically, both the Democratic and the Republican Party's nominating process is paralyzed. The Republicans are paralyzed because Trump has absorbed all the options in the room, and no other Republican can really get a word in edgewise. The country is divided between Republican Party primaries, divided between those who say Trump is innocent and he should be elected, and those who say Trump is guilty and he shouldn't be. And there's no room for somebody who says he's probably innocent, but I'm going to run against him anyway. And he's totally paralyzed the Republican field. The Democratic field, on the other hand, is also paralyzed because all of them have to say the emperor has a nice suit of clothes on, and nobody's allowed to say the emperor doesn't have anything on. And the polling that I've just seen conducted a day ago that I saw this morning, which is brand new, shows something new in Biden. When a politician fails, it happens usually in 3 stages. The first is people say the country's in trouble, bad economy, something like that. But it's not the president's fault. Then they say, well, it is the president's fault. He's a good guy. I like him, but he's not doing a good job. And then the last stage when they say, I not only think he's a bad president, I think he's a bad man. And I think he's not honest, and I don't think he should be president. And that's the stage Biden is at now. In January, when you ask people to have a favorable or unfavorable personal view of Joe Biden, he was tied. Now he has a 15-point negative image, 15 points more unfavorable than favorable. So these scandals and Hunter Biden and the Ukraine stuff and his increasing feebleness, both physically and mentally, has really gotten to a point where people don't think he should be president. And that's something that's very hard to overcome.
Let me ask you, because there's an interesting candidate in the race, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I see a lot of conservatives that are moving towards this guy. Oh, I love this guy. And I say, hey, just because you're free speech, just because you're anti-vax doesn't make you a conservative. As a conservative, be very wary about a guy like RFK Jr. But then he poses a problem for Joe Biden as well. Let me play a soundbite from RFK, and then I want you to tell me how each candidate should deal with him. Cut 10.
Like teenagers playing World of Warcraft, these warmongers inside U.S. leadership draw up war games and scenarios and pretend that a nuclear war is winnable. That is a dangerous lie. It's an illusion that my uncle's defense secretary, Robert McNamara, called mass psychosis. These individuals do not appreciate what John F. Kennedy understood when he said of nuclear war, quote, all that we have built, all that we have worked for would be destroyed in the first 24 hours.
Well, Dick, so he's talking about the neocons in Washington. He's talking basically Trump supporters, and he's also talking, of course, to Democrats who don't like endless wars. What does this guy do to the race here for both candidates, Trump and Biden?
Well, very good question. Few people are paying attention. It's very important subject. I think that Kennedy is articulating a split in the Democratic Party, very much like Trump brought a split to the Republican Party. Trump separated the rhinos from the MAGA Republicans. And in effect, Kennedy's doing the same thing. He's separating the movement Democrats, the old peace movement, from the establishment of the Democratic Party. And these are folks who don't particularly like Biden, don't like big pharma, don't like high tech, don't like the military-industrial complex. And this anti-bigness concern is something that animates Robert Kennedy and animates many of them. So I think for Trump, he's kind of a halfway house to Donald Trump. I think once you depart from the Democratic dogma and you say, I'm looking for a candidate that opposes endless wars, I'm looking for someone who won't be intimidated by big pharma, who will overcome the intelligence community, who will not be kicked around by the establishment. You got to leave Biden, and then you think for a while about Kennedy, and you may basically come to Trump. Trump obviously isn't running in the Democratic primary, but many of the Democratic voters and independent voters can come to Trump through the Kennedy portal. In terms of Biden, he represents a serious threat because Biden can't debate him. He'd lose, despite Kennedy's voice problems. Biden will get bothered. And he can't ignore him because Biden will continue to pile up votes. And bear in mind that 3/4 of the Democratic electorate does not want Biden as the president. Only 25% vote for him in the multi-candidate primary field. So the field is open to someone who is an anti-Biden Democrat, and Kennedy's doing it. So I think his candidacy is helping both Trump and himself.
It is interesting. And the conversation he brings is one that needs to be had in many respects. But I just want to offer up this final warning to my conservative friends out there. RFK Jr. is a guy that says if you don't believe in climate change, you should be in jail. And so that is not somebody who represents the Republican Party, much less conservatives, who I love. Dick Morris, I always appreciate you coming on. The insight's fantastic. I miss you, buddy. And I'm sure we'll talk again real soon. Absolutely. All right, don't forget Dick's new book out, too. Please, you can get that everywhere books are sold. Sutherland Springs hero Stephen Williford will join me next to talk about his new book and that fateful day in November 2017 where he became a hero with his AR-15. That's next. Folks, I want to tell you a little secret. When it comes to guns, gun control, the war on gun owners and law-abiding citizens in America, the left wants the Second Amendment gone. They want it done away with altogether. But it's very hard to take them seriously when they talk about guns, when they say things like this. Cut one.
Made it harder for people to buy stabilized bracelets. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun.
I mean, it's literally nonsensical gobbledygook. You put a pistol on a brace and it turns into a gun. The pistol's already a gun. The brace is there to support you when you're handicapped. So you have a brace to help you aim and shoot if you have a disability. It doesn't change the caliber of the bullet coming out of the gun. That makes no sense. But Joe Biden doesn't understand how a firearm operates. Yet, he goes on throwing around words like assault weapons and bans. Watch this, cut 3.
We will ban assault weapons in this country. We will ban multi-round magazines. We will hold gun makers liable. We will beat the gun industry. We will beat big money that sits behind them. And the politicians refuse to stand up and act. It won't be easy. I have no illusions how fiercely they'll fight back, but I also have no illusions about the people in this room.
Did he say multi-gun magazines? Like, magazines hold bullets. They hold multiple bullets. So what are you going to do? You're going to ban them? You're going to have a gun with one bullet in it? That's it? Like a single shot pistol used back in the 1800s and before? Come on. So this is what we're talking about. And if you're going to ban all these things, how do you propose you do that? You have Republican-controlled Congress. There's not going to be any laws going through Congress, not between now and the next election. And you're not going to win the next time around. So this is not going to happen anytime soon. But here's what they will do. They will legislate this stuff out of existence. They will use the ATF. They will go flat on tyrannical about all of this. But it's interesting, Joe Biden did say one thing during his talk on guns that I thought to be interesting. I thought to be legitimate, actually. Cut 2.
Every damn day in America, in areas that are poor, mostly minority, there's a mass shooting. And it never reaches the crescendo that it reaches other places. Every single day.
He's right about that. Every single day there is a mass shooting. Just go to Chicago. There were 60 people shot over the weekend. Why is that? It's because Democrat cities are not prosecuting crimes. They're not going after gun owners. I just did a story in Los Angeles. A guy accused of holding up a convenience store was let out the next day with a firearm. Yet if you or I were caught in California with an illegal firearm and an illegal magazine with too many bullets, they would throw us in jail. The reason why these shootings are happening in minority communities across the country is because of Democrat policies that enable and encourage criminality. It's not law-abiding gun owners that are going to the gun shop. It's not gun instructors or NRA instructors. It's not people like the hero of Sutherland Springs, Stephen Williford. Do you remember him? Barefoot with an AR-15. He rushed out. The church was being shot up, and he killed the shooter. This is him telling his story in his own words.
Immediately, he came out of the church shooting at me. He hit the truck in front of me, he hit the car behind me, hit the house behind me. And I hit him. He had an AR-15, but so did I. And it's not the gun, it's the heart. It's a matter of the heart. I'm not the bravest man in the world or anything, but I was here. I was here, and I could do something.
Well, I've had the honor to get to know Stephen Williford over the years, my time at the NRA, and then, of course, working at other outlets. He is a hero of Sutherland Springs. He's got a new book out titled The Town Called Sutherland Springs, and he is our next guest. Stephen Williford, welcome to the program, my friend.
Thank you for having me on. It's great to see you again.
Well, it's good to see you, and I'm so happy you got this book out. Tell me what motivated you to write it, and what is the goal of it?
Well, what motivated me to write it is that the people of Sutherland Springs my community is Mayberry, USA. It's such a precious community, and it's about Sutherland Springs, and it's about heroes within the church and heroes outside the church, and much more than what people know. And it gave us an opportunity to interview the surviving victims and the families of the ones that lost people in the church, and tell the nation what those family members wanted the nation to know about their loved ones. And that's what the book is about. My history with Sutherland Springs, I'm fourth generation. I never want to live anywhere else other than Sutherland Springs in the world.
It's such a small community, Stephen. I've had the chance to go down and visit myself and the people there. I know they'll never forget that day, but is there a day that goes by where you don't think about the shooting? What about the people of that community? Is this still a daily thought in everyone's mind?
It is for some of us. Others, not so much, but those of us that experienced what happened, those of us that lost loved ones in the church, it's almost going to be a daily thing for us. And I don't know that it'll ever go away.
Was there anything you wish you could have done differently that day? I mean, you were running down the street barefoot, right? And I know you don't like even being called a hero. I know what a humble guy you are. Is there anything you wish you'd done differently or anything in that aspect, Stephen?
Absolutely. So I had been burglarized like 5 years prior to this. And the guy that broke into my home and stole stuff out of my home got the one gun that was not in a safe. And so I made a habit of locking away all my guns, unloading them, putting them in a safe. And that tragically took me 91 seconds extra to get into my safe, grab a gun, load it, and get into action. And that's 91 seconds that I will regret for the rest of my life, because, you know, they want to pass safe gun storage acts and stuff where you have to lock your guns away. But it takes time to get a gun out of a safe and get into action, time that you don't necessarily have. And I fight those. You have to be responsible with how you take care of your gun and make sure that there's no access to it for other people. Yeah. But it's not the government's job to mandate things like this.
I say it all the time. It's a gun owner's job to make sure that your gun is safe from unauthorized users. But beyond that, the government shouldn't be telling you how to do that. It's up to you how to do that. If you got a toddler in the house and the gun is on top of the top shelf of a closet where they can't get to it and is loaded and ready to go, well, then that's fine. Lastly, I want to ask you, Stephen, before I let you go, is there one story of one victim? Is there anything that really sticks out in your mind from the book that you want people to remember above all?
Well, right now we're going to have Gun Owners of America GOA night at the races coming up on July 8th. And we are going to go out there and recognize Chris Workman that was shot in the back. And Chris was paralyzed from the waist down. And he'll never walk his daughter down the aisle. He'll roll down the aisle with her. But we're going to have Gun Owners of America night at the races, and it's going to be a really cool night. And I'm going to be there with GOA, which you can go to gunowners.org and sign up. Please help us fight. And we're going to have actually a local young lady that is in the Miss Texas pageant, and she's going to sing the national anthem for us. And it's going to be just an absolute crazy great night. And
as someone, Stephen, who lives in Texas and has gone to many of these types of events in little towns in Texas. It is about as special night as it gets, especially on a summer night in Texas. That's exactly what should be happening. I so appreciate you coming on the program. It is always good to see you, Stephen Williford. I'm so grateful for what you did that day and your voice for gun owners across this country. Thank you for coming on.
Amazon, go find my book at Amazon, please, and buy the book. It's called A Town Called Sutherland Springs.
Well, I wasn't going to forget that. I promise you, buddy. I told you I'd push the book, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Thank you, Stephen. So remember, as Stephen just said, it is A Town Called Sutherland Springs. It is out now, and as he said, you can get it on Amazon. All right, folks, one thing that I take seriously is my health. I try to eat right with my schedule. It's not always easy. I know I need fruits and vegetables, like 6 cups a day or something, but it's impossible. Until I found Field of Greens, and honestly, it's amazing. It makes me feel great. Unlike other fruits and vegetable supplements, each one of the servings is fruits and vegetables in a field of greens that's medically selected to support specific functions like heart health, liver and kidney health, immune systems, and metabolism. By my 3rd day using Field of Greens, I can literally feel a difference in energy levels. Sleep patterns were better. Friends are telling me I look healthier. Someone just told me yesterday my skin looks better, okay? Because of Field of Greens. So here's my challenge to you. Take Field of Greens, and if your friends don't say something like, hey man, you look amazing, you look healthy, if your doctors say just keep up what you're doing, what is it? Field of Greens will refund your money guaranteed. So to help you get started, I got 15% off your first order, plus get another 10% off when you subscribe on reoccurring orders. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code GRANT. That's fieldofgreens.com, promo code GRANT. All right, new information tying Fauci's NIH even closer to the China virus gain of function research in China. One of the people they were funding turned out to be patient 0 for COVID-19. We'll explain what that means next. we are now learning who patient zero was in that Wuhan lab in China. Patient zero for the COVID-19 China virus, as I call it. It was a gentleman by the name of Ben Wu, who was ground zero, was patient zero for this virus. Reason being, he was working for a subcontractor of EcoHealth Alliance. This is that group funded by the United States through a series of grants, maybe upward of $41 million. How do we know this? The White Coat Waste Project had discovered this through Freedom of Information requests, helped expose all of that. Well, joining me now is the Senior Vice President for the White Coat Waste Project. Justin Goodman is with us. Justin, welcome to the program.
Great to be here, Grant.
So this tells me that it didn't come from a wet market. If patient zero was working in the lab, it came from the lab, and it also tells us that we were funding gain-of-function research.
That's right, Grant. People like Fauci and others have been telling us to follow the science since early 2020, but we've been following the money since late 2019. And we found, first, we linked the NIH to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in April of 2020 through FOIA. We then exposed how the NIH and the EcoHealth Alliance and the Wuhan lab conspired to violate the federal ban on gain of function. And now, most recently, we have uncovered documents through a FOIA lawsuit proving that patient zero, who the Wall Street Journal and others confirmed was a Wuhan Institute of Virology animal experimenter, was a guy named Ben Hu, who was directly receiving funding from Fauci's division at the NIH, as well as the U.S. State Department. Not only that, he was receiving funding specifically to conduct gain-of-function experiments on humanized mice with bat coronaviruses. And this is the same guy who proposed in 2018 with EcoHealth Alliance to create a coronavirus with a spike protein. This guy wrote the blueprint for the disease, the virus that caused the pandemic.
All right, so if this is the case, Fauci told us we weren't funding gain of function. Turns out they are. How early did they know he was patient zero? Because that would also tell us how early they would suspect that it came from the lab.
That's right. So this intelligence about the 3 sick Wuhan workers, lab workers, was released in January of 2021, right at the last few days of the Trump administration by the State Department. The intelligence that I've seen so far confirms that these are the identities of 3 workers who were hospitalized with COVID-like symptoms in November of 2019. That means that the virus could have been circulating before that in the laboratory or potentially brought into the laboratory and then, accidentally released from the laboratory or engineered and then released from the laboratory. Whatever we think is the actual scenario that transpired, the wet market theory, the fake news wet market theory that Fauci's been pushing since early 2020, despite funding gain of function and knowing what happened there, is all based on the idea that this virus popped up in December 2019. But these sick Wuhan animal lab workers prove that the virus was around in November 2019, and these are the first people where there's evidence that they actually may have had it. So I would say that these documents we have tying Ben Hu to Fauci's gain-of-function experiments, if he proves to be patient zero, are the smoking gun.
Yeah, it sure seems like the smoking gun. So last question, about 30 seconds, if you can. What do we do now with this information?
Well, we need to hold people like Fauci accountable for lying to Congress and funding this reckless research in violation of federal policy in the first place and killing over 10 million people around the world and crippling the global economy. We also have to make sure that we're not shipping tax dollars to foreign animal laboratories in enemy nations like China and Russia, and working with Congress to defund those programs, ban gain of function, and hold people accountable for causing the pandemic.
Yeah. All things that I've been calling for on this program for years. And again, I think the theme of tonight, all the way from the first segment, is that nothing seems to be changing. I'm not convinced anyone is ever going to be held accountable for these actions against humanity, not just the United States, but against humanity. I appreciate the work that your organization is doing to uncover this. Seems like the mainstream media has been derelict in its duties trying to do that. So with that, a big thank you, Justin Goodman, to you and the White Coat Waste Project.
Thanks for your support, Grant. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Hey, remember, when you talk about chaos, right? What do? You need to protect your finances. How do you do it? My friends over at Birch Gold can help you. I tell all my friends and family, if you're going to invest in gold, which is a good idea right now, when you see everything going on in the world, it's stood the test of time as an investment. It also provides you security and privacy. Well, you can do this with Birch Gold. They're good guys. Protect yourself with gold by texting America to the number 989898. That's America to the number 989898. You got a centralized digital currency, inflation, all of this stuff coming together. Now is the time to put your money into precious metals. See if it's right for you by calling the guys over at Birch Gold. You can do that by texting America to the number 989898. All right, coming up after the break, another example of the left trying to indoctrinate your kids, this time on Cartoon Network.
Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. After months of claiming he is innocent, first son Hunter Biden has agreed to plead guilty to tax evasion and gun charges. But unlike pretty much every other criminal, he won't serve any jail time and could see some convictions erased if he's a good boy. And that is really making people angry. The Border Patrol said crossings topped 200,000 again in May. But worse was the surge of terrorists trying to get in, many over the Canadian border. Fox News might have thought getting rid of Tucker Carlson was a good cleansing move, but it's killing the network's ratings. And the CDC reports that depression is on the rise in America. They said nearly 1 in 5 of us are constantly bummed out. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Also has a new addition, Pink Box. They use they, them pronouns, and they bake an exceptionally good quiche.
Yar, well met, Box. I use they, them pronouns as well.
Well, folks, we baby bears. That's what that's all about. The indoctrination continues on the Cartoon Network. Go figure. This is what our kids are up against. It's up to us to be policing what they watch. Insanity, folks. That's going to do it for us tonight. We'll have more insanity on Stinchfield tomorrow night because the left continues to do what they do to destroy this nation. Oh, it's so sad but true, isn't it? We'll see you here tomorrow night. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Bye, folks.
right, live from Studio 6B on a Wednesday night, Real America's Voice, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. Glad you're in. Rick Del